And welcome to Penguin Beach here at ZSL London Zoo. If you love penguins, then you are definitely in the right place because this is the largest penguin pool in England. My name's Nadine and I'm joined today by Zoe, Janet and Paul, some of our fantastic bird keepers, and they're going to be feeding the penguins this afternoon while I tell you a little bit about them and some of their amazing adaptations. So as I've already mentioned, you are now looking at the largest penguin pool in England, currently home to over 70 individual penguins, most of them who have made their grand entrance down the pool for you just now, and the ones that we have here are called Humboldt Penguins. Around the whole world though, there are 20 different species of penguin, and they can range in size from the enormous emperor penguin, which stands at about 4 foot tall, so over 1 metre high, nearly up to my shoulder, pretty big for a penguin, right the way down to the little blue or fairy penguin, which measures a teeny tiny, incredibly huge 1 foot or just 30 centimetres in height. Now, we probably all have the image of penguins coming from very, very cold, snowy, icy parts of the world, but in actual fact, they can be found in some surprisingly hot and sunny places as well, so ranging from the beaches of South Africa and Namibia to Australia and New Zealand, and our very own Humboldt penguins here would be found on the coastal parts of Peru and Chile in South America. Now, as you may have noticed, you have joined our penguins just in time for some tasty lunch. So I do have a question for all of you guys. We're going to see if there are any penguin experts in the audience today. I'm going to count to 3, and then I'd like you all to shout out as loudly as you can what you think our penguins like to eat. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Well done, guys. You are absolutely right, absolutely spot on. Penguins do love to eat fish, and that makes up around 80% of their diet. The remaining 20% would be things like squid, some crustaceans. In particular, they do like to eat something called krill, which is a bit like teeny tiny little shrimp. But in actual fact, fish is exactly what is on the menu for our penguins today. So while Zoe is right here, let's just find out a little bit more about that. So Zoe, first of all, what exactly are we feeding our penguins this afternoon?
So this is sprat.
So they're having some tasty sprats at the moment. And how many fish do you reckon each penguin could get through in a day?
Up to 30 each.
Wow, so up to 30 fish each, that is quite a lot of food for our penguins. And as you may have seen at the start of the talk, you will have noticed Zoe walking up and down the length of Penguin Beach with lots of our penguins following her in the water. And then down at the front, you'll see we're even dropping some fish directly into the deeper water by the glass through those pipes as well. So we actually use a number of different feeding methods for our penguins, basically to encourage their natural behaviour. Because of course, out in the wild, penguins would always have to dive to catch their food. And penguins are all fantastic divers. All of the different species can easily get down to at least 100 metres in depth, so already pretty impressive if you ask me. But then some of the bigger species, such as those enormous emperors that we mentioned earlier, they've been recorded diving as deep as 500 metres. And while they're diving, penguins also have fantastic underwater vision to help them find their food. However, diving ability and underwater vision aren't the only adaptations that these guys have for life in the water. For example, they also have 2 layers of feathers. So there's the outer layer, that's the bit that we can see, and that acts a little bit like a wetsuit, so allowing the penguins to dive for long periods of time. And then underneath that, they also have a nice thick insulating layer to keep them warm at all temperatures. Now, you've probably already noticed that all of our penguins here, and in fact all penguins worldwide, are of course black and white. Now, not only does this make them look incredibly smart, very well dressed indeed, but it is, believe it or not, a very clever form of camouflage called countershading. Now, at this point you might be thinking our penguins don't really look very camouflaged here at Penguin Beach. However, if you imagine that you were out in the sea swimming with penguins, and you swam over the top of them looking down, those black backs would blend in really well with the deep, dark ocean below. And similarly, if you were swimming underneath the penguin and looking up, that white belly would then blend in with the surface of the water and the bright sky above. So out in the sea, they are practically invisible, which is really useful because penguins do have plenty of predators. For example, leopard seals and orcas, also known as killer whales. However, the penguins still have to be extremely careful because many of those big marine predators use exactly the same countershading themselves. So in other words, they are also darker on top and light underneath to help them sneak up on their prey. We can also see the difference between our penguins when they're in the water, looking, I'm sure you'll agree, ever so agile and graceful, and out on land. We tend to find them a little bit comical, the way they waddle around and look perhaps just a tiny bit clumsy. They really are just so well adapted to being in the water. Even their wings have evolved to be more like flippers, and these can propel the penguins through the water at speeds of up to 25 kilometres per hour. And unlike our cheeky imposter gulls and our uninvited herons, who you'll sometimes sometimes see dotted around Penguin Beach, especially around feeding times. Now, birds like those have got light hollow bones to help them fly through the air. Penguins, on the other hand, although they are definitely still birds, have got really dense, solid bones to help them sink even better in the water when they're diving. So although we didn't invite the cheeky gulls along, they do still make quite a handy point for comparison. But now we know a little bit about penguins in general, we're going to focus more closely on the particular ones that we have here. So as I mentioned earlier on in the talk, the penguins we have here are Humboldt penguins. And you may well have heard them before you saw them as you came into Penguin Beach. They can be very noisy, they make rather a loud honking noise, a little bit like the donkeys that you might see over in Animal Adventure as well. And out in the wild, these Humboldt penguins breed in large colonies and they live in nests made of soil, rock and even guano, which is a fancy name for penguin poo. Now you can probably tell the difference between our adult Humboldt penguins, the majority of the ones you'll see here, and our juvenile youngsters. So the adults have got a distinctive pink band just around the base of their beak, and the youngsters have still a little bit more silvery grey in colour. They don't quite have the full black and white markings or the pink band just yet. But if you look closely enough at any of our Humboldt penguins, you'll notice that they've all got a pattern of black spots all over that white belly. Now the incredible thing is that every single one of them has their own unique spotty pattern, as individual as our fingerprints are to us. So our very talented bird keepers can actually tell who's who in the pool just from looking at those spots. Now finally, I am going to leave all of you guys with a very simple way that all of us can help penguins out in the wild. So I've got a question for all of you. Put your hands up if any of you ever drink water. Hoping to see every single hand going up at this point. There we go. Now I'm going to tell you how easy it is to help penguins every time you have a drink of water. How cool is that? Now this is easy to do because we as humans sadly produce an awful lot of plastic rubbish every single year, and lots of this plastic rubbish finds its way into our oceans, into our seas. Now this is obviously not good news for penguins and other wildlife that live there, and just as an example, it takes about 450 years for, let's say, a disposable plastic water bottle to start to break down. Now scarier still, those tiny pieces of plastic are still going to be hanging around in the oceans forever. So not good news for the penguins, not good news for us either, because those tiny bits can do things like get into our food chain as well. However, rather than being all doom and gloom, here at ZSL we are trying to do our bit to combat this. So last year we launched our brand new One Less campaign, so one less plastic bottle in the oceans. So we're trying to encourage people to think about doing things like this. So using a refillable, reusable water bottle instead, and we've even got water fountains around the zoo to help you fill those up. And we also now sell water in a box rather than a bottle, so fully recyclable cartons of water in all sorts of exciting flavours. So you'll notice that around site today. So all sorts of simple things we can do every day to help penguins and lots of other animals out in the seas. Now that just about brings us to the end of our Penguin Beach live talk for now, but I'm going to be heading over to base camp on the other side of the beach for a couple of minutes, so do feel free to come on over, say hello and ask any questions. Other than that though, do look out for the rest of our live talks all around the zoo this afternoon. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day here at ZSL London Zoo. Thank you.